All right, and we're recording. Hey gang, Andy here, and welcome to a brand new vliggity vlog. That's right, your boy is back. As usual with these up-to-date vlogs, we'll go over some personal life stuff as well as YouTube stuff. So that said, get a nice deep breath, breathe in that good ass prana, and begin. So let's start off with the YouTube stuff, right? So there's not really a whole lot to discuss there, and it will lead into the personal life stuff as to why. But as you guys have noticed, most of my uploads have been consisting of short form content, so shorts. I've also been uploading on TikTok as well. Every once in a while, if I find something interesting, I'll respond to it or whatever, just make something, I guess. I'm on the TikToks under Andy Japandi, if you guys want to find me. I've also been doing stuff on the Instagram, taking pictures, and every once in a while, like a short form video up there as well. So it's not like I haven't been doing anything, but as far as these types of videos, really haven't been doing them for quite some time. The closest I've gotten to these were just an occasional live stream I would do on the weekends, if I'm editing videos or just eating some brunch, drinking a few carbonated beverages. But that's about it really. As far as these types of sit down videos, I've been MIA, as it were. We'll get into the personal life stuff as far as why that's been the case. So, getting into personal life stuff, yay. As you guys know, I haven't been very happy with my job for some time now. Don't want to get into specifics, but I've been doing a lot of various tasks, working with different groups, departments, things like that. I've just been an everywhere man. And I've been everywhere as far as work goes, but I still get paid like a Joe Blow English teacher. In fact, I think even worse after taxes. But on the plus side, my finances are slightly better now because they're giving me more consistent overtime. So, yay. Get paid like an extra 10,000, 15,000 yen a month. That's like not even $100, or maybe just a tad over $100 in the burger bucks USD. So I'm not having to borrow money all the time. I'm just completely financially depleted by the time payday rolls around. So I have like no savings, nothing. It's just living paycheck to paycheck just to get to the next paycheck. And they're just loading me up with more work. And it's just, quite frankly, exhausting. Because of that, my motivation for doing anything outside of work has been depleted. I just don't have the physical, mental, emotional bandwidth, whatever you want to call it, creative bandwidth even, to make any sort of video for myself. It's very difficult because I do want to make more videos. I want to tell people about what life in Japan is like, and more importantly, show people what life in Japan is like, rather than Scenic Andy's room, which is in Japan, but it could very well be in America. You wouldn't know. It practically looks the same here as it did in North Carolina and Ohio and Michigan and all those other places. So I'd love to get out there and film and do more of that stuff, but I'm just so fucking exhausted after work. I just, I spend my weekends just recovering, getting rarer and rarer these days for me to even go out and hang out with friends because I'm just so drained. And I'm just worried that I'm going to become the depressing friend, the friend that's always just in a big depressive episode and it's just such a fucking Debbie Downer to hang out with, and I don't want to be that guy, I want to be the fun friends, the one who's always like doing stuff and talking about fun stuff. But, the way work is just draining me, it's hard for me to like muster up enough energy to be that exciting, gregarious personality. And it's just been really fucking with me mentally. As you guys know, if you've been following my vlogs for some time, the autumn, fall, aki, whatever you want to call this season, is a time of reflection for me. So I reflect on the goings on from this year so far, and I look forward to what's to come for next year. That also gets me into a bit of a negative headspace sometimes because I often look at the negative stuff that's been going on more so than the positive stuff. One of the positives that have really stood out to me this year so far is my group of friends. And it's thanks to you guys for inviting me out and hanging out with me, even in my low times, that I'm able to keep going and find motivation to continue. I went out to different getaways with my friends, different beaches here in Shonan as well as elsewhere up in Tokyo. And it's been great. I mean, hell, I even hung out with some friends just a couple days ago for Halloween right after work. And normally I would have just went straight home because I was so tired and so drained because it was such a long day. And it was raining, it was cold, and it was just all the signs were pointing to just go home, Andy. This is too much, man. You can't be going out gallivanting around town in this kind of weather. It's just, I felt like a soaking wet dog by the time I actually arrived to where my friends were. And I was definitely not in the best of spirits. I was just very drained and tired and just didn't want to say anything. But after some good food, good drinks, walking around a little bit, I started loosening up a lot, and I was starting to feel it. So that was good. But yeah, just this cycle of working super duper hard and, feeling very, concerned about my work, that it's not enough, or it's not the right quality, or it's not what they're looking for, or I'm shooting below expectations or whatever. That's also causing a lot of anxiety in my life. Just the fear of being replaced or not having my contract renewed or whatever. That's always there. Because in Japan, they don't fire people. Nobody gets fired in Japan unless you do something heinous. But what they can do, and what some companies have done to me in the past, is just elect to not renew your contract. So they'll just let your contract run out, and then, it's gotta sama fuck you, basically. But I think just the way that I've been working and for how long I've been working for this company, I've celebrated 2 years working for them in September. Moved down here to Shonan 2 years ago as well. It'll be 2 years ago exactly tomorrow from the time of this recording. That was one of the best things that happened to me, is to be able to finally move here in Chigasaki to the Shonan area. That was just such a great turning point for me. And I love this community. I love just the vibrant, laid-back energy of the Chigasaki community. It's a great place to live. And honestly, I don't imagine myself anywhere else, really, except maybe in a nicer place, but still within Chigasaki, or Shonan at least. With that being said, although it is a nice place to live, there aren't many job opportunities out this area, so that's one of the big disadvantages. Most people, if they live here, they're either retirees or they work in Yokohama or Tokyo and they just commute. If I go job hunting, am I really willing to commit to commuting that far of a distance for basically the same amount of money that I make now, if not less, because I'll be starting out as a rookie? I've just been doing a lot of thinking, especially this week, because this week's been really rough. And, I got my schedule for this month, November 2025, and I have just a shit ton of overtime. I'm working a lot of half days on Saturdays this month. So, that's going to be great for my paycheck. It's going to be awesome. But I just wonder, mentally, physically, emotionally, what the fuck am I doing? I'm going to be turning 40 officially now. Next month, I'll be turning 40. For most men, these are our prime earning years, is 40s, where you earn the most money, and then 50s, you're in a senior level role, and then by the time you hit your 60s, you're just in more of maybe a consultant type role, or you're just kind of on your way out, looking more towards retirement. Me gonna be pushing 40 soon has got me thinking about a lot of different things, about a lot of what do I even want anymore out of working and doing all this stuff. Do I even want to work for another company? I don't even know. I've been looking for a new job for a while now, and especially this year, it's been rough because the job market has just been so ass. And that's not just a Japan thing, that's a worldwide thing. The job market's just been so ass. There's not really a whole lot of jobs to begin with, but of the jobs that are being offered, either I don't qualify for them, or they're in fields that just aren't that interesting to me, or they're for wages that are either the same as mine, or in a lot of cases less than mine. And my wage is pretty shit to begin with, so I'd just be putting myself in an even shittier situation if I were to take those jobs, unless it was in a role I was really passionate about and felt I could really contribute something to it. For example, I see a lot of Joe Blow English teacher jobs that are, pretty low pay, and They're talking about being this super motivating Genki type person and working all these hours and doing all these different things. And I'm just like, I don't want to fucking do that, man. I'm looking for a job to where I can like slow down, because I feel like I'm doing too much already at my current job and I'm just burnt the fuck out. And I don't want to do this anymore. And so I'm looking at jobs around here. There's fucking nothing. And I know there's going to be somebody in the comments being like, brother, why didn't you sign up for the government jobs out here, dude? Get paid in USD? Don't even have to worry about a visa? Hell yeah, brother, get yours. And that'd be great, but there's just one teensy tiny little problem. The government's shut down. Not only have they furlonged nearly 1 million people from their jobs, they sure as fuck aren't hiring right now. So maybe once the government reopens, I'll reconsider and look through USA Jobs or some other shit. But for now, it is absolutely not an option. I can tell you that for certain. Speaking of good old Mercagen land, I've also been looking at that as another possibility of me going back to America to find myself a regular old job. I don't have to worry about the visa anymore if I go back to America. I can just work a regular job, just whatever. But, as I said before, there's a lot of things to do if I were to do something like that. And for one, I would definitely want to have a role lined up before I even consider moving back to America, because again, with the amount of money that it would take for me to reestablish myself there, I'd be sleeping on my mom's couch again if I even attempted to do it right now. That's just not a good situation to put yourself in when you're pushing 40, really. I don't really know what the fuck to do at this point, aside from get married and start my own business out here, which is something I've really been considering. In fact, I talked with a potential investor earlier this week about an idea I have for an English school that uses digital media to teach English. So you learn how to do, for example, photography, videography, marketing. You learn those skills via learning English. So you learn English through an activity, and the activity is that. And thankfully, a lot of those types of terms, have a lot of gairaigo associated with them. So gairaigo being Japanese words that are borrowed from foreign words. So, for example, one of them, if you're adjusting like the contrast of an image, like the balance of the shadows and the lights. So in English, it's contrast, and in Japanese, it's kontrasto, like shutter speed, stuff like that. So it's pretty easy to meld those together. I've also been considering doing classes teaching local film crews some basic English phrases that they would need for working as, an additional crew for a foreign production. Say if they were to go to Los Angeles or Atlanta or something like that. That's where a lot of filming is happening these days, post Coroni Macaroni is out in good old hot Atlanta. So they may want to learn like some basic like stagehand type English. So that way they understand the terms, the Western terms versus the Japanese terms. So that's another thing I've been considering. That's more like a workshop. It's not something I'd be doing every day necessarily, but the idea is to just have like a school that would teach English through an activity. And those are actually quite common in Japan these days. As you know, there's a lot of English schools out there, and they have a very spotty track record, to say the least. There are some good schools out there, but then there's a lot of crap schools as well. But point being is that I see a trend these days of schools teaching English through an activity. Now, there's some that do it through sports, some do it through like STEM type stuff. Actually, I've seen a lot of people learning English through like programming and robotics and stuff like that, which is pretty wild to me. But that is something that's also being offered. Hell, I've even seen, there's this one English school I was trying to apply to that teaches kids English through Minecraft, which is pretty interesting. So I figure, well, teaching kids English through digital media production doesn't seem like that big of a stretch, right? We could kind of taper the lessons based on age range, of course. You don't want to give preschoolers a freaking camera and say, go at it, son. You basically just want to, adjust your lessons accordingly. But yeah, that was the general idea that I have. And it's something I've been wanting to do for a while, is to have some sort of digital media production education system. But rather than run it like a school where it's like grade levels and stuff like that, I'd run it more like a trade school, kind of, where it's just teaching you a skill, and in this case, technically teaching you two skills at the same time, teaching you English skills, as well as skills in digital media production. So I think that's pretty darn cool. And, my vision for this also plays into having an actual production company attached to it. So in addition to running the school, I'd also want to have a production arm as well. So, if any work comes my way, I can use the production side of the school to go out there and do stuff. And so that's the general gist of my idea. But the problem I've been having is, how do I make that transition? It's very difficult. And I know they've changed a lot of rules with the business manager visa. So that's another thing I have to discuss with these people, but they seem pretty confident about things. I just have to put together a business proposal on how I want to do this and how I want to market this. That's the main thing, because it's such a new concept, because a lot of education with digital media production is either done in like single classes in like college, or it's like these online like Udemy or Skillshare type courses, but there's not really like a dedicated face-to-face type school for these sorts of things. So to try to market something like this, definitely going to take a lot of thinking to really, plan this, but I do believe strongly that there is an audience for it. You just need to present the right unique value prop for this and just go from there. And just find a way to reduce my overhead expenses as much as humanly possible, especially for the first couple of years. Because, even if business is popping, you still got to pay off all the outstanding stuff for getting everything started, So it's going to be, at least 3 years at least before we're really getting things going. But, it is something that I feel very strongly about, and it is something that I want to do. And I think that is also very frustrating for me too, is because I'm seeing my work schedule for this month. I'm seeing how much they're expecting me to do at work. And I'm just thinking like, okay, so I have to balance that with trying to put together a proposal for this business idea that I have, and doing some freelance work, and doing this, that, and the other. Oh, and I gotta have like a life, I guess, too, right? So trying to manage all that together has been quite difficult for you, boy, to be honest with you. And that's why, to put it in words, that's why I haven't really been making a whole lot of videos on here as of late. Or even on my video editing channel, which I've been wanting to bring back for so long. I haven't really been doing anything on there either, because I've been focusing most of my video production energy into getting this new business venture off the ground. I have some interested parties, and things could be looking up in that direction. And I really hope things take off with that, because I feel like I could really pour a lot of good creative energy into that. And also, having the opportunity to collab with a lot of businesses and places here in Shonan, especially, is something that's very important to me. Just bringing the community together, because there's a lot of artistic energy here in Shonan that's not really widely talked about. But if you follow the right circles here locally, as well as do some digging on Instagram and other parts of the interwebs, you can find them. And just to be able to collaborate with those circles, is definitely something that I'm very, very interested in doing. Yeah, I just gotta find the energy, find a way to be able to make the push to transition from working at JOB to running my own business, essentially. So that's basically what I've been working on for a while. Now, as far as this school goes, I don't know when it'll be up and running. I haven't made the proposal at the time of this recording. I haven't made the proposal to the parties that are interested. I just sent them an email. Didn't think they would even respond to it. And they did. They seemed very interested in the idea, but they asked me to write up this proposal and for any sort of materials that I would need and things like that. I'm just thinking, oh shit, okay. How do I want to put this together? So that's what I've been working on this week. Is trying to figure that out. Now, as far as the future goes for your boy, the Andy San Samadeshta, we'll see. If this business takes off, it's going to be really great for me creatively, financially, hopefully, fingers crossed. Anyway, but it'll at least give me a good outlet for stuff I'm passionate about, which I feel like I've been very remiss in doing lately. I just, like I said, it's been hard to muster up the energy to get out there and do my shit, right? So, yeah, I think that's going to do it for today. And I guess another news, technically YouTube news, before we close things out here. This is vlog 399, which means next vlog is vlog 400. 400 vlogs in nearly 20 years. That's definitely saying something, for sure. So, just want to let you all know about that. And with that said, this is Andy, signing off for now. Thanking you guys, old school style, for watching my videos, liking, the thumbs or the stars for you old schoolers, commenting, subscribing, sending a few friends to the party. And hey, as always and forever, we'll see you next time. Catch you later, guys. Bye.
Simple life and happier times, spirits of past, memories of mine. Shooting stars in the pale moonlight, morning rainbows make it all